Lord Manticore training.
How do I know that I'm talking to a spirit?
Today we'll be looking at that vital question about whether or not, when you're doing magic, you're talking to an actual spirit or not. Now, the interwebs are full of people who believe information that their contact or spirit told them something quite important, only to be surprised later to discover that the information was complete and utter pants. One part of magical training which has fallen by the wayside is having a good method of determining whether or not you're talking to an actual invoked spirit or those little voices inside your head or those invisible friends you had as a child. This is because it's incredibly likely that even if you successfully invoke a spirit, the resulting conversation will be clouded by the much louder voice inside your head. One magician friend puts the percentage of these conversations at about 90%. So let's put this in perspective. You have an hour talking to a spirit, asking it all sorts of questions. Only 10% of that is going to be the actual spirit speaking, and the rest of it is going to be garbled bollocks. And that's if you're lucky. In my book, Why Magic Fails, I look at some of the reasons for this. And the first and most obvious is that your unconscious wants confirmation for all its existing beliefs and patterns. And if it can't get them from the environment around it, it will take the nearest voice that it can confirm what it really thinks. Then it has the sheer pleasure of saying, it's not me that thinks that the earth is flat or we talk to little blue aliens, it's my contact. The next important thing is poor magical training. And this is because a person, when engaging in an astral spirit, has not managed to calm their own mind first. When you enter into a conversation with an astral being or anything like that, it broadcasts directly to you. And the only thing that can listen to it is your unconscious mind. If you haven't stilled that mind properly, it will be going over and over the thoughts of the day, TV shows, and books that you've read or anything. This is why good magical training will get you to calm your mind totally. Now, in the East, this is called the monkey mind. So what you're trying to do is to tame that monkey mind so that it doesn't rush off to the next thing, but can sit passively and listen. And this takes a long time and it takes a bit of a knack. The other reason you get a garbled message is that you might have an inflated sense of self-importance. In other words, you believe that you're so damn important to the universe that you can dial up the most important gods and have them talk to you, or for that matter, they'll obey you. This is problematic because the same mindset that thinks that sort of thing is the same mindset that will narcissistically play on gods to the point where they will just say, the gods will end up saying what they are told to say. If you think you're more important than Zeus, you will not allow Zeus to tell you anything that you disagree with. Another area which might go wrong is if you've made ritual shortcuts. Now, a ritual has a structure and you need to follow that structure quite clearly. If you don't and you take shortcuts, you might have left out something quite important that prevents you from getting into the right mindset before you call the spirit. So if you have done, say, an invocation to a planetary spirit of Saturn, and you get bored and you cut the invocation time to that spirit by half because you can't be bothered saying it, then you haven't gotten the right framework which will allow your mind to tune itself to that spirit properly. So the result you get will be much more garbled. Another reason that things go wrong is sometimes you tune yourself to a lower astral spirit instead of a higher one. Technically, this is done by poor invocation, but it also might be beyond your ability to reach that higher level of contact. So what you do is you plug into the nearest daemon that comes along. And they are not only prepared to say what you want them to say, but they're also prepared to trick you into doing something. By this, I'm not even talking about demons. We haven't even got to that level yet. We're talking about any spirit that happens to be in the area of your ritual, sees you doing this, and says, I'll stand in and talk. And they do. Now, there are many more reasons I've given, and these are in my book, which I'll put at the bottom below. So how do you know that your communications are off? I mean, one ritual is as good as another. It seems fine. You feel good about it. You've noted down your communications and they're pretty good. So what's gone wrong here? The first sign that you know that something's gone wrong is if the spirit tells you stuff you already know. No spirit will come down the levels to a point where it can actually communicate with you to tell you the information you already have available. So if you know something already, you're not talking to a spirit, you're talking to your own brain. There's a certain amount here that's also quite important, which we'll get to, about how spirits use your brain to communicate. Another thing which is proof that you're not talking to a real spirit is it bangs on about love, beauty and harmony and waffles on about pretty things which sound like a New Age conference. This is a clear sign that your unconscious has overridden the message with stuff that sounds good. A real spirit which you've invoked and has come through properly is extremely pragmatic. It won't give you advice about your girlfriend, it'll give you ideas, but it certainly won't waffle on about love, peace and harmony, because that's not its job. While we're on that subject, a spirit will sometimes give you unverifiable information, such as what was daily life like in Atlantis or another planet. This is a clear sign that it's talking bollocks. It is no use to you to have that particular type of information, even if it was verifiable. The fact it isn't means that it's science fiction. And all you're doing is sitting, listening to a science fiction story which may or may not feature you if you're dumb enough to ask the spirit for information about your past lives. The next thing that is clear that you have got something going wrong is when the spirit tells you that you're a messiah, a living God, a prophet, or anything that might inflate your ego. This is a trick of the lower genius, lower self, and has nothing to do with the spirit in question. The spirit is huge, and you are incredibly small, and you're not important. As far as a magician goes, the last thing they want to be is a messiah. It ties up all their work feeding people with loaves and fishes, and all you get is a crucifixion at the end of it. Magicians are mostly people adverse, while messiahs have a history of attracting followers. And magicians don't really want followers, or else they're not very, very good magicians. And before you say, but Crowley said he was a prophet, and he was a good magician, and he was successful, you also have to look at what Crowley thought of his followers, and those people who followed him, claiming he was a prophet. He didn't like them much at all, and was particularly unpleasant to them. Connected to that fact, you might find that your ritual will have gone wrong, or you're communicating to your lower genius when it commands you to do something. No spirit below an archangel, and I mean an archangel, will tell you what to do. My old teacher had a saying that only God can tell you what to do, and everything else is just advice. So when you have someone or a spirit telling you it's a good idea to act in this way, to do this particular thing, then you take it as advice. If you take it literally, or the spirit insists that you're taking it literally. You're talking to either a rogue spirit or your lower self, and you actually wanted to do that particular course of action anyway. Coupled with this, you can have cases where a spirit might threaten you or someone else, or encourages you generally to live in a state of fear if you don't obey it. Spirits aren't Daleks. You don't have to obey. The magical path is based on choice. And if you don't have that choice, you're not on the magical path. Also, if a spirit tells you information that you know to be incorrect or illogical, chances are that it is not a viable spirit, or is not something useful for you to listen to. One thing I liked to do after channeling sessions with spirits, or after I've done a decent invocation, is to search to see if that information has appeared anywhere else, or is just something I haven't heard of, or is actually true. If it isn't, you just ignore it, and next time try a bit harder. Contacts which are developed over time are a bit more problematic because they sometimes start out fine, telling you information that you need and are useful, but over time the contact changes and it becomes more and more unpleasant, and you have to be very, very careful and consistent with this. One trick that more wayward spirits do is they start with promises, giving useful information, and all the things you might want. And the next thing that happens, they're telling you to kill someone. This is why with all sort of invocations or contacts, you need to be very careful about listening to what they say and why. There was a recent case in England where somebody was summoning a demon, wanted to make a pact with them, and the demon told them, or at least he said that the demon told them, that he had to kill 6 people to win the lottery. He did actually kill 2 people, and the demon didn't deliver. Now the question is, what was he talking to? And in this case, it's most unlikely to have been the demon. In this case, the demon was supposed to be the treasurer of hell. So why on earth would he want dead humans? Why would he want to give away money when his actual function is to obtain money? What we have in this situation, and what the court decided, is we have a deeply disturbed kid who listens to the voice in his head that says demons want me to kill people, and that gives me a justification for doing it. So on to brighter subject. You would think there was some safety things embedded within the grimoire system that would enable you to be surer. And one of the ideas that people sometimes present is making sure that you have the spirit's name, or making it perform various grade signs. So if you're in the Golden Dawn, you do the 5-6 signs at the spirit, and you would see if it could reply. If you had the spirit's correct name, it must be telling you the truth. However, this doesn't really work. A spirit's name will often change throughout history and centuries, and some of these aren't just typographical errors. They are definite changes in name, sometimes in different languages, from Hebrew to Greek or Latin. And the other thing is that you're not likely to be able to get the spirit that you've actually named. So if I'm invoking Raphael, who's an archangel, I'm not likely to get the full Raphael. I'm likely to get one of his daemons or messengers. Even at the highest level, an archangel is not going to fit into my flat, which is probably a good thing, because if you actually see a real archangel, your brain would melt. Grade signs are an interesting idea. The idea is if you approach a spirit and give them your grade sign, it will tune the message to that grade and not hurt you. But the problem with this is I've never seen it actually work. And I spent a lot of time trying to get spirits to do grade signs. And yeah, they replied, but it didn't improve the message at all. As a general rule, I give them out as a matter of politeness and respect to the tradition, but I don't think they really make that much difference. I mentioned that there once was training to tell if there was an inner spirit voice, but this fell by the wayside as schools and orders fell out of favor in the 1990s. It requires supervised meditation work, during which you start noticing which voices in your head are your own and which are external. This sort of meditation forces you to still your mind before a ritual so that internal chatter is silenced. This means when you look to your diaries, you would take them to your supervisor and they would show you something which you might have come up with, which was a contact. This process is difficult, but not impossible, and requires a great deal of self-honesty and self-awareness. Another method of checking to see if you've got a genuine contact is that after you've done your session and you've found, say, a few sentences or something which is clearly unique and interesting and game-changing for you, you write it down and you go off and meditate on it. What you can then do is ask the spirit before you close for a check on earth. Now, these are really good. They show that a check on earth is something that the spirit is supposed to organize to show that you got the message. It can be anything that's connected symbolically to the spirit. It can't be something that happens normally. So if you see a white car, for example, and you say, I invoke the spirit of the moon, that's not enough. But if you saw a white car with a registration plate that said moon on it, then you're getting closer to what I'm going on about. So what you're looking for is you tell the spirit that you'd like to see a check within 24 hours of your ritual. You then spend the next 24 hours observing carefully for symbols that are connected to that spirit. If you don't get any, then chances are that this spirit isn't quite what you think it is, and you should treat your radical message with some suspicion. But generally they don't. Something happens and something is opened up for you. Now this can just be a coincidence, but it's worked for me as a technique. Lastly, I'd say if you are working a lot with contacts, angelic invocations or things like that, you should shut up about what you've experienced and what you've heard. It's not that I'm just saying be secret or anything else like that. It's just that people who go online and then brag about conversations they've had with angels sound loony, even if the information is quite good. It's better that you process the information through your own life before you inflict it on others. Anyway, that wraps up this short video blog for this week. If you like what I'm saying, don't forget to hit subscribe. If you want to get some more detail, the Lord Manticore training Substack is packed full of information. We write 6 stories at least a week, and it started to become quite a vibrant community with people asking questions and debating various subjects. So we'd like to see you there. The address is at the bottom here, and I'm just putting it up now. In the meantime, bye.